Hey guys, girls and Doki lovers, it's me, your best friend, the guy that makes stupidly long videos. Today we're going to be talking about a special game that is going to be the first part of a trilogy of psychological horror video games. Released 16 years and 13 days after 9/11, or September 22nd, 2017, if you're a simpleton. The first game was released, and I'll give you 5 seconds to answer. You were probably right, it's DDLC by Team Salvador, aka that one game where she is such a bad bitch though. I'ma fuck that boy. DDLC is a psychological horror video game disguised as a cute dating sim, and that kind of idea consists for the other two games, which also, coincidentally, have pink as a primary colour featured. I assume this is a common colour because pink is like associated with a more playful, carefree and loving tone, which fits all of the games in some sort of way, as they all present themselves as friendly. DDLC is very good at hiding its intentions with very subtle foreshadowing, and these games are very personal to me and serve as a character study on how to do psychological horror correct. So anyway, DDLC is a character study on Monica, the seemingly loving, innocent flower and lovable president of the literature club. She's kind of like an embodiment of look like the serpent, the innocent flower, but be the serpent underneath in Macbeth. Except she's not a serpent, she's just a yandere, which is someone with an unhealthy love for someone who will go to far lengths to ensure that they do not leave their sight. Maybe it's a sort of codependence in a way, except psychopathic. But either way, the game was a success for indie horror games, and just indie in general, and that culminated in the release of DDLC Plus on the 30th of June 2024. Let's get started, shall we?
Every day I imagine a future where I can be with you. In my hand is a pen that will write a poem of me and you. The ink flows down into a dark puddle. Just move your hand right the way into his heart. But in this world of infinite choices, what will it take just to find that special day? What will it take just to find that special day? Have I found everybody a fun assignment to do today? When you're here, everything that we do is fun for them anyway. When I can't even read my own feelings, what good are words when a smile says it all? And if this world won't write me an ending, what will it take just for me to have it all? Does my pen only write bitter words for those who are dear to me? Is it love if I take you, or is it love if I set you free? The ink flows down into a dark puddle. How can I write love into reality if I can't hear the sound of your heartbeat? What do you call love in your reality? And in your reality, if I don't know how to love you, I'll leave you be.
The game starts with you, the main character, bumping into your favourite childhood friend, Sayori. Then she kind of guilt trips you into joining the literature club because you're a lazy introvert who needs to be more active. Also, this club is run by President Monica and Vice President Sayori. There's two other characters, Best Girl Yuri, and that one character no one likes, aka Midget Natsuki, whose only good character trait is baking cute cat cupcakes. So we get introduced to the others, blah blah blah, some subtle manipulation with the girls acting dejected to guilt trip us into staying. Then we write a probably shit poem. Then the next day some stuff happens, like Yuri giving us a book to read, and Sayori and Monica are discussing some event to try and make the club seem more appealing. We also read our poem to the four girls, and they read theirs to us. Also, Yuri and Natsuki keep having fights about pieces of paper. Kind of like I had an argument with the chair dweller about colours. Also, I'm curious how Yuri writes enchanting table. Either way, we write a poem, and the day ends. Next day, Sayori yaps, and the tsundere is a whore. Nothing's changed, except for I guess Monica wants to try piano. Also, we have to take this absolute child to some other classroom and get supplies for the festival. And she bangs her forehead. Then we get some apple juice to cool her pain, and she yaps about childhood memories. Anyway, poem time. And Monica's is the first example of foreshadowing in this game. She also knows about saving the game as well, which I could be stretching, but in non-meta terms, could link to Undertale and Deltarune, because of like determination and saving and all that. Oh my god, we've uncovered a link. Nah, it's just breaking the fourth wall, which isn't uncommon in psychological horror, as we'll soon see. Yuri's poem is something about raccoons used as a metaphor for something. Probably about her curiosity and maybe hunger to hurt herself. The knife makes her excited to hurt herself, maybe. Either way, it tells us that Yuri might not be very well. The final line, and I feed myself again, supports the theory of the raccoon being an allegory for herself and her desire to satiate the need to self-harm. A rush of blood is a double entendre, as it tells us that both it fills her with adrenaline, and obviously, when she hurts herself, blood comes out. Finally, the bread could refer to her body or blood as she cuts her body to feel the rush of blood. Either way, knives and Yuri have a close correlation. Also, Natsuki said the poem was about an unusual habit of hers, which further supports my theory. Anyway, some stuff about rehearsing poems for the event thingy, and then we get this line, which is a hint that something's off. Obviously, some people would not recognise these foreshadowing sentences, but yeah, that's cold, and Monica knows it, because if you know this game, Monica knows some things that we don't. Anyway, Monica goes first to rehearse it in front of everyone, then strangely, Yuri. Then Sayori, and then last, that thing. Anyway, Sayori walks with us home, and is a lot more quiet than usual. She asked if we'd ditch her and walk with Yuri instead, and you get a choice. In this case, we're kind. Anyway, fuck off, Sayori. Poem time! One of the words is suicide. I just thought I'd mention that. Sayori is starting to become increasingly more sad and isolated, foreshadowing her events to transpire. Also, Monica's trying not to get us to worry about her by saying she's just hiding her love for us. Yeah, because that makes a lot of sense. More manipulation. So you read out poems for everyone, I guess. Sayori cries or something. I wasn't paying attention because I'm not analysing every single frame of this. She then tells us one last thing. She's going home early. This ain't good. Also, Yuri breaks the fourth wall unintentionally, but not really, because she just says something bad's probably going to happen. Anyway, some arguing happens, I guess, and we have to pick between helping any of the four members. Picking Sayori makes everyone dismiss her, like she's unimportant. Selecting Monica makes her happy, but Yuri and Natsuki get pissed at her and start saying she's the president and doesn't need help. Picking Yuri and Natsuki get angry. In this playthrough we pick Yuri, which makes Natsuki angry, but it's quickly resolved. Natsuki and Monica leave the room, I think, and it's just Yuri. Get it? Just Yuri? That's a DDLC reference. I think Yuri says she'll come walk with the MC to his house, which is kind of funny because the day before, Sayori was worried about this kind of thing, ditching her and walking with Yuri. We now time skip to Sunday, before visiting Yuri, we go into Sayori's house to check if she's okay. The music is quiet and it's dark, but don't worry guys, she's actually okay. She's in a room with casual clothes and a somber smile. She opens up, I guess, and tells us that nothing's wrong about her because she's always been depressed. Wait, is Sayori literally me for real? Anyway, so yeah, she yaps about her struggles with a smile. She tells us about how she's selfish for convincing us to come to the club, which is both a blessing and a curse. We meet great characters, and then, as we pull her into a hug, she doesn't hug us back while crying into our ear, I think. She tells us not to do this to her. She hugs us back finally. Let's go, and we have to go to our house to meet up with Yuri, who comes in our clean house. We have a long-winded talk and start preparing for tomorrow where we have that stupid festival plot I don't care about. She has a fancy knife, I guess, and an interest in the danger and beauty and craftsmanship behind it. She lets us handle it, and we cut ourselves low. Lucky. Yuri blames herself as the blood trickles down our finger. I think she tries cleaning our wound, and then those reflex arcs occur, and we instinctively move our hand away as she again blames herself. Anyway, back to the boring plot about the whole festival crap. Another close-up weirdly sexualish scene later as we leave the house, after more boring basically B-plot stuff, as it feels like filler. I'm not saying all B-plots are bad and filler, but this is just boring. Who really cares about this B-plot? We came here for the A-plot, you know. But anyway, she has a close-up shot with us saying that we're thoughtful. Guess who's here? It's just Yuri. Yes, that was intentionally rewritten for that joke. Yuri gets embarrassed by the close-up shot we just had together and leaves for tomorrow. It's just Yuri, and she talks about how happy she is for us making friends with Yuri. She says she's scared she'll love us more than we love her, and that she likes us so much she wants to die. Then we get a prompt between "You'll always be my best friend" and "I love you." Choosing the latter makes her yap about how much we love her, and then she hugs us bittersweetly. Despite this being what should be her brightest moment, she still feels depressed. Time skip to tomorrow, and Monica somehow knew of the exchange yesterday, maybe because she's the club president. It is plausible that Sayori told her, but I think you and I have a better idea. To make matters even worse, she says she probably knows more than we do, which is kinda ominous. She also says, "You kinda left her hanging this morning too," which is probably the coldest line in the entire game. She gives us a poem that I think Sayori made in the rehearsal, and that's not concerning, is it? The final line is, "But a poem is never actually finished, it just stops moving." This line I'm going to assume is telling us both that a story is never finished, and maybe the other one could be that another person is never finished, they just stop moving. Which could mean even if death, someone can still have their legacy alive. That statement pisses me off, as the poem Ozymandias by William Wordsworth suggests otherwise, like saying Hitler, Stalin's and Taylor Swift legacies will be forgotten. Then again, if people forget about Swift, it'll be for the best. The only thing she does is take a holiday faster than you could say meatloaf. Get on that private jet to get anywhere. Anyway, so the music is now gone in this scene, by the way, and now this poem makes us want to check if Sayori's alright. We visit her house, the tension rising as we reach a black screen, and then we open the door and see a horrific sight for ourselves and our relevant protagonist. Sayori's hung herself. The game's cheerful, iconic song is distorted, as it feels as though even the fourth wall is not safe from whatever evil is making us suffer like this. Her soulless face as she has nothing left to live for despite all of our love to her. The protagonist says, "I shouldn't have confessed to her," which may foreshadow something. With that, we've finished the first chapter, or act rather. The main title screen has Sayori's textures glitching out, and the start game button is a bit fucked right now. The second act starts off normal, ignoring the text as we see the annoying girl's face. She glitches out and gets replaced with Monica and Yuri, but she gets replaced by just Monica. The game reboots up again, and the main character, who I should refer to as John from now on, as it's boring to say MC or main character. Either way, he's talking about walking alone and having no motivation to join any clubs. Then Monica corrupts into his classroom, saying she quit some debate club because it gets too political. Then she starts a new club with 3 members. As we enter her club, there's 2 other girls besides Monica, which we know as Natsuki and Yuri, obviously. The game mostly loops on itself to try to be innocent while the player is still in fear for what has, and maybe will, transpire in the future. The game is tense, as you're aware this game isn't any normal dating sim. Also, Yuri's line, "Isn't it amazing how a writer can deliberately take advantage of your own lack of creativity to completely throw you for a loop?" Anyways, I've been reading a lot of horror lately. It's really funny because she's nonchalantly breaking the fourth wall without even knowing it by mentioning this game is a psychological horror. And don't worry, this game will stop being meta when it drops died. When John tries to argue he's not joining the club, the girls look at him somberly, and Monica guilt trips him by saying an official club has to at least have 4 members. With that, our assignment is the poem stuff, and we unlock a special poem. Let's see. Stare at the dot for a special message. For about 1 second, it says, "I love you." Possibly a couple frames, and then we can make our poem. Doing so results in the next day, and the song that plays has the wrong pitch at points, which keeps the tense atmosphere up as it sounds off. Then there's Yuri, who has a distorted face, which will become a common thing in this act. It turns to normal, then Natsuki comes in with reverted colours and a glitch effect, which turn back to normal. Also, Monica's model, specifically her hair, covers over some of the text. Maybe this is done purposely to make her seem more dominant and powerful, but it's revealed to us that Yuri is now the club president, or at least the vice president. Yuri then gives us that book that she gave us in Act 1, because of course the game reset. John asks what the portrait of Markov even is about, and she says it's about a religious camp turned into a human experiment prison, which for some reason kinda sounds like I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream by Howlin' Ellison. It's not even close, but for me it just sounds similar. The people trapped in the prison have a trait of turning into blood-hungry killer machines. Killer machines? Just like Allied Master Computer. Look, I know that these 2 games I know I'm gasping at straws, but my brain can't stop thinking. Then they selectively breed people by cutting off limbs and affixing them to something, but it's a spoiler apparently. She tells us the story is some kind of allegory and not a single person to be horrible, but instead because life is meaningless, we're all terrible. She says in bold black text. Maybe the story is somehow an allegory for Yuri's hatred of humanity, her misanthropy, if you will. She sees the world as nothing except cruel, full of power, and money-hungry, lazy, lustful, and sinful people who do nothing but hate. Hate was a common theme in Am's speeches, so maybe DDLC is confirmed, linked to the I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream world. No, I'm just kidding. She basically says there's no meaning to life, and there's no point in living, which sets us good foreshadowing for whatever's to come. I have more to say, but I don't know. I might have more to say, but I don't know. Then she says, then suddenly, with a lot of whys, then she speaks normally. She was just yapping. The next thing is when she says, when I let things like books and writing fill my thoughts, and then she says, in big black bold text, my whole body gets incredibly, followed by gibberish, which some crazy guy probably translated, and then she stops zoning out and has another glitch, turning into that scary thing. Another close-up scene later, and it's poem time. sharing it with Monica, and we get her first in-game poem, but it's changed to be a bit more concerning. Actually, I think it's a continuation from the last. The first about some boyfriend or something. I think the message is that she is inside the hole and the boyfriend is out. This is a metaphor for her feelings for us. We're outside and she's in, which serves as good foreshadowing via breaking the fourth wall. We're out and free of the chains from being in a video game, and she's stuck in the game. The second poem continues by saying we've stopped staring back. I think she's hallucinating sounds or something, and she feels claustrophobic to the tight chains of being in the game, which means the inside of the wall is an allegory to being trapped in the narrative, where you know stuff and everyone else doesn't, and then she's panicking because she can't escape. He's right there, but she can't reach him. Maybe I'm going too in-depth in Monica's poems, but damn it, I want a fairycraft, and I might have already spoiled the game. After reading out the poems, I get to hear the wrong pitch for the DDLC's iconic song. Yuri and Natsuki are having another argument, and Natsuki calls her out for having her boobs grow bigger as soon as John came. That's fucked up, mate. After saying that Monica says that there's nothing wrong to... After Monica says that's wrong to say, Yuri and Natsuki tell her it's not a problem. Then, while the lights flicker to black, Yuri calls Natsuki out for making fun of her insecurities. She's as childish as she looks. Then the song's speed and pitch increases as the tension rises between the two bickerers. Natsuki drops another cold line. "Oh, be careful or you might cut yourself on that edge, Yuri." "Oh, my bad. You already do that, don't you?" That's cold to make fun of someone for a mental health issue, and that's why we hate Natsuki. She's a tsundere bitch who calls people out for having certain habits or interests. So we talk about getting dragged into this mess of a club in black and bold, and then we can choose between being on Yuri's and Natsuki's side. Since Sayori is gone, there's no help. But by now you would have noticed the static and noise which help rise the tension. Picking Yuri zooms the camera in until it's forcing us to picking Natsuki. But picking Yuri has Monica appear front and center, and she's in front of the text. So the text has to go down like that. She tells us to go outside with her. Doing so has her just tell us they'll be done in a minute, and she wasn't wrong as the wicked bitch of the club storms out, and we go back and Yuri's crying. Monica confronts her by saying Natsuki will soon forget about it, which is a really funny line. Yuri apologizes for causing trouble, and soon she says, "I hope you understand." She glitches out with Monica still staring at us with her body and overlapping the text. The next poem lets us pick Doki Doki, like the title of the game, which apparently is onomatopoeia to suggest the heart is beating fast. Fair enough, it's a good title that tricks you. Obviously the fast beating is your feelings to them, and vice versa. Maybe it could also mean your heart beating before you, self-harm, or worse. There's a rush of adrenaline of, should I do it? Anyway, in this poem, you can select this option, which does this. Anyway, next day, Natsuki's reading some manga. Monica is not here yet, or is she? Yuri pulls us into something to apologise for not acting mentally sound. For some reason, the script said that Yuri pulled us into a corber, but I'm too lazy to change it and look through the whole game. Natsuki appears and asks if we've seen Monica. No one knows. The protagonist thinks it's suspicious how we don't actually know where she is, and Yuri apologises for what transpired yesterday, and Natsuki don't even know what she's talking about. Well, Monica wasn't wrong about Natsuki forgetting. In black and bold, Natsuki says, "Whatever's on your mind, I'm sure it was nothing. I don't remember anything bad happening. You're the type of person that worries too much about the little things, aren't you?" Then Natsuki has her eyes blurred out. With realistic teeth, she says, "Milbus sailcloth, blindsight lifeline, anan receptality, faultlessly offered, silo malicia nade." I typed this out and found a Reddit post about what it could mean. TLDR, read it yourself. This game's full of TLDR because it's such a young lap fest. Then again, this game is full of TLDR because it's such a long yap fest. Anyway, Monica comes in, and I think she said her reason was piano practice. Oh boy, pianos. We'll get to pianos a lot later. Just wait. Also, Monica asked what she misses, and John said nothing important, which parallels a scene in Act 1, apparently, according to my script. You know, you could probably you can make this shit a media study project, analyze the impact of psychological horror, refer to DDLC franchise. That's how exam phrases words. That's how the exams phrase the questions. Anyway, tangent over. Yuri wants to hang out with us again, and she wants to make tea, but she needs to fetch someone to do so. She leaves the classroom, and curious, we exit as well. The music is much more muffled now, presumably because we're in a much more quiet hallway, and we hear a noise. Yuri's laughter. But more eerie laughter. There's also breathing. Peering around the corner, Yuri gets startled, and then time rewinds. We've been waiting for Yuri for some time, and now she's here. She's got tea, and she pours it for us, asking if we can sit on the floor as it's better for her back. Doing so, we get more close-up shots as John pops a chocolate in her mouth. Then suddenly the music stops. We stand up, and it gets dark, her heart pounding, kind of like Doki Dokiing. I don't know how you phrase that, but either way, she gives us the unnerving stare while the music intensifies. Then, Monica, as usual, appears, everything goes to normal, and it's time to show our poems. Monica tells us it's fine, Yuri's excited by seeing us, but when she gets too excited, she hides and stabs herself, which links her back to her raccoon poem being an allegory about her getting excited and hurting herself. We're going to refer to that a lot, probably. Monica's poem is a remake of another one, but this time it's worse. I'm not sure about the symbolism of using sin, cos and tan from math, but okay, yeah. Like playing knife on a ribcage probably just refers to Yuri harming herself. The last line, delete her, is foreshadowing, and also it's weird that it's in this poem. After finishing the poem, it glitches out a little, and Monica calls it abstract. Monica also tells us to save our game again, but is unsure why she really said that. She directly breaks the fourth wall by asking who she's talking to and if they can hear her. She's obviously talking to us, not John. Then there's a thing that says please help me, and you just say okay. Yuri's poem is kind of weird to analyse because I'm not sure what she really is talking about. A kaleidoscope of blood? Is it something to do with a blood king or something? The last line is just breathing and then all the things she said. Breathing blood, breathing God. Might be stretching, but what if the breathing God is Monica? Yeah, I am stretching. We unlock another secret poem that says something about dreaming, about being at a friend's house and falling asleep to wake up to the house, but something is slightly different. An unknown man tells a joke and everyone laughs. Then it's revealed that the laughter came from their friends watching the TV. Anyway, I don't know what it's about, but we go back to the literature club and we've read all the poems. Monica says, a place so intimate you'd never want to leave, and she says, I know you feel that way too. I think she says that to Natsuki, but at the same time it's plausible she's referring to us as well, because, well, it's kind of obvious. Natsuki gets angry. Monica's trying to make more people join, so she leaves, asking Yuri what her opinion on the festival is, and she says she's indifferent before glitching her face and says, who cares about that obnoxious brat? Obviously referring to Natsuki. You know what, Yuri? You're right. She turns to normal and likes how quiet the club is right now, but has duties as vice president. And then she breaks character again and says nobody would cry if she killed herself, before having her eyes suddenly bleed out. Then it goes back to normal for the second time in a row. While she's talking, either tears or blood go down her eyes. I'd assume the latter, but either way, Yuri leaves. The audio goes silent as Monica says she hates having the girls giving us a hard time. While she yaps, the screen goes redder and noise appears. She shouts, wait, not again, as the poem crap appears again. So basically Monica's like losing power in this one instance. It's very strange. This poem part is different as every time you do it the digits grow up by 1 and it makes Monica jump up and down for like 2 seconds. Then the next day, boring whatever, Natsuki's back and we repeat the teapot again. It's different at the end as she glitches and says she has deja vu. The next scene is big as Yuri feels unsafe in the club and that Monika is acting really weird lately. She feels as though she can hear us from anywhere. As soon as Yuri says, "No one to make me feel like stabbing myself in the throat," aha, that's just a joke. Monika slowly starting to become less transparent and more omnipresent and omniscient. She wants us to leave the club and come to her house. She's also bad-mouthing Monika and Natsuki by saying Monika has a slimy tongue and Natsuki is a pathetic child. Anyway, at the end, the text glitches and we get to read our poems to everyone. Picking Monika makes her warn us. Picking Natsuki makes her show us her poem, although it's less of a poem and more of a concern as she thinks Yuri needs a therapist, and that she actually does like her. Then she seems confused by Monika downplaying the situation. She tells us not to tell Yuri about this, and finishing the poem, she glitches and without a face, she says she's changed her mind. She says to focus on just Monika, because she's the only one that's too normal, and that Yuri and Natsuki are too messed up to be with someone as beautiful as John. Just think of Monika from now on. Just Monika, just Monika, just Monika. And then you get the prompt to say, just Monika, then Nokia screen that says just Monika. Then the game fake reboots up and says just Monika, before kicking you back to reading the poems, selecting Yuri, and she wants you to do stuff with your poem. Then she gives us her poem. In case you didn't know, the stuff on the scene is, well, piss and, you guessed it, blood. Then she asks us if she likes it and she added her own scent. Then she glitches back and says she'll vomit. Another command prompt, presumably for the new poem, and it says it assumes that Yuri can't go to therapy. She'll only go if her cover's blown and she's taken to the emergency room. Back to the festival B-plot. Yay! And Yuri says that the stagnant air is common for foreshadowing, which she said before, you know, Sayori wanted to fly. The only options are Monika, Monika, Monika. Oh, and did I mention Monika? Variety is the spice of life, as they say. Oh, you picked Monika? Good choice. Are you mentally prepared? Too bad. So Monika calls Yuri unreasonable, which makes her mad. But the truth is, Yuri is madly in love. Get it? Anyway, so Yuri calls Monika self-important and that she should kill herself as it's beneficial to her mental health. Yuri pushes Monika and Natsuki out of the room to have John all to herself. She doesn't care if she's insane or not, but she loves you. She doesn't even care if Monika's listening or not. Doesn't care about the consequences. She's probably the most unsettling in the game. The line, "I just want to pull out your skin and crawl inside it," is the perfect example of Yuri's mental state. Her love for us is intoxicating to herself, us, and everyone around her. She might realize it, but she doesn't even care because the addiction is too good. The feeling is too good. She realizes the danger to herself and maybe even people around her, but then she loves it. She loves knives, blood, and us. We are the bread for the raccoon. It keeps coming back for us, even if it's a bad thing. Accepting her love confession results in crazy laughing, followed by a stab in the chest. Yeah, I bet you expected that from a woman who's so mentally unwell she's done all this to her stuff even if it hurts. We are the knife that harms her. If you want to go Macbeth style, she looks up into the sky and hallucinating a dagger, which turns into us. The dagger is us. She plunges the knife into ourselves because we are the knife. We close to her when she stabs herself, and now she is dead because she loved us. Monika's warning about loving her was real. It was probable Monika forced Yuri to kill herself, but at the same time, she's also sort of gained sentience that Monika is always watching. With 2 chest wounds and 1 near to her breasts, she collapses to the ground. This is followed by a section where you have to watch her for 2 in-game days as we watch her soulless corpse with blood smeared all over, the bloodied knife and the trail on the floor. We watch as the the blood starts to dry up and the only text is gibberish after we had to skip for ages. There's actually a reward in DDLC Plus for not skipping any of the text at all. Holding the skip button, we see that it takes a while, but soon we see sunlight, night and day. All while she's laid limp on the ground. It was 3 full sunsets and night before Natsuki comes in. She sees the corpse and runs away, vomiting before Monika comes in to manipulate and downplay the situation. The line, "Were you here the entire time, John?" Oh jeez, I didn't realise the script was broken that badly. You know, script, like a video game code. Well, I think you know just what this beautiful pink-haired girl is now. She makes it up to us by instead deleting the character files for Yuri and Natsuki. But before she does, she gets a cupcake from Natsuki's file before resetting the game. You know where this is heading. The third act starts up with a glitched boot-up screen again, and it instantly leads to a black screen with Monika getting things set up. When all is said and done, we appear in a mysterious room in seemingly nowhere. Monika is staring at us creepily, as per usual, but this time it's much worse. She reveals to us that she is not speaking to the main character, but to us, beyond the fourth wall. Well, let's just say my name is G-Sauce Crust, or G-Sausage Crust. She then reveals to us that she knows that she's stuck in the game. Her friends aren't authentic. She's just programmed to fall in love with you. She loves you so she deleted their files, so you're stuck with her. Watching you love them was torture to Monika. Monika wants to talk about us being on Steam, and there's an easy character folder to delete characters. Then she writes us a corrupt poem where the only words are Monika, just Monika, nothing else. Her final poem is just her saying that she won't let things come to an end. Not all good things must come to an end. She also hints that you can delete your character file, and if you're actually on PC and you're recording on OBS, she says hi to everyone and jump scares you when you least expect it. Unless you're like me and we're expecting to be duped. Anyway, basically all that happens now is a long silence before she occasionally interrupts it by saying random shit. Going to her files, you can right click the one for Monika and press delete. This is required to progress to Act 4. Backing into the game again, Monika starts to glitch again. Scared and even angry we deleted and betrayed her. She says her goodbyes, and she realises something. Maybe what she did was kinda shit. She regrets it. All John, and in turn G-Sauce, wanted to do was play a cute dating sim. To do that to the person you love is not love, but what? It's selfishness, and she realises. She does the most selfless thing she's ever done. No more guilt tripping, any of her manipulative tactics like gaslighting, forcing her friends to kill themselves. No, as Monika will disappear once she restores everyone back, a literature club without Monika. Booting up the game again, there's an obvious sign that there's a lack of a certain someone. Yeah, it's not a bad thing. Without Monika, we can happily live with these two girls and that other one, the gremlin. With Sayori as the club president, we now start the game again and rejoin the club. It's nice to see Natsuki and Yuri making amends. However, Sayori reveals something. She thanks us for getting rid of Monika. Since she's the president, she knows, which basically makes her the new villain. She makes us love her forever, but a mysterious force, Monika, stops her. Stop, I won't let you hurt him. Sayori is confused, and then Monika says, I'm sorry I was wrong. There's no happiness here after all. Goodbye Sayori, goodbye John, goodbye Literature Club. Then more glitches and a fade to black.
Can you hear me? Hi, it's me. So you know how I've been like practicing piano and stuff, and not really any good at it yet, like at all. But I wrote you a song, and I was kind of hoping that I could show it to you because I worked really, really hard on it. So yeah. Every day of me and you. The ink flows down into a dark puddle. Just move your hand right the way into his heart. But in this world of infinite choices, what will it take just to find that special day? What will it take just to find that special day?
The final scene is a credits with a vocal version of the main song. After that, a final thank you poem from Monica. And with that, a bittersweet close to one of the most influential games in the psychological horror subgenre. Specifically metaphysical psychological horror, which is basically meta-psychological horror, where the fourth wall is extremely fragile. DDLC is a really crazy game. The score, music, is good for the tone, it's able to twist in case something happens, and I love how the songs you're accustomed to can just shift so drastically. Like for example, when Sayori tries to roleplay as a bird. Look, I'm sorry for saying this, but because I love Sayori. But like, how else do you say she's hung herself? Maybe it's insensitive, but either way I feel like this game is really what kickstarted the indie psychological horror in my opinion. DDLC can probably be described as the poster child for metaphysical psychological horror, as it basically invented the subgenre that ended up making some of the greatest horror games to ever exist. There may be games before, but DDLC was the big one that everyone fell in love with, and that deserves credit. And there's also DDLC Plus, but that's a whole other can of worms that we are going to open up later. I think it just adds new endings and you can do more crap with the girls. I think there's also stories that are set before DDLC, but I don't know. Before we end this section, I first want to analyse Monica's impact throughout DDLC. This game is a character study on her, to be fair. Monica's presence is everywhere in the game, and you can even feel that in the beginning. This game is absolutely amazing for foreshadowing, as it hides them everywhere. Her first big examples of something wrong is when Monica tells us to save that game in case something happens. Obviously she knew what saving is because, well, she's aware of any concept that would be on the fourth wall. It's basically having a laugh at games that have characters like break the fourth wall to tell you to save. Like that one time in Origami King at the very beginning of the game. Anyway, I guess I'm manipulating the situation in her favour would also show her power. For example, the scene where you get guilt tripped into joining the club isn't obvious, but you can tell that Monica is trying to guilt trip you, and use any of her manipulative tactics to get you to stay with her. Every scene with her is unnerving in some way, as you don't know what she'll do, or how she'll corrupt and glitch the girls. How she erased Natsuki's memory of fighting with Yuri, how she amplified Sayori and Yuri's suicidal thoughts by editing their code. Yes, she did do that. The scene where she listened into yours and Yuri's private conversations on leaving the club, with her slowly coming into view, then she warns us to stay away from Yuri. Monica is warm rather than cold, yet she feels uncomfortable and uncontrollable and unsettling. How she can glitch the game and girls out of existence, and how she is always staring at you, waiting for you to realise she knows something. You kinda left her hanging this morning, she says, right before you discover what Sayori did to herself. The day after that, there's a poster that shows Sayori's limp, hanging corpse. That's just cruel and twisted from Monica, and she knows, but she doesn't care. In Natsuki's poem about being concerned for Yuri, Monica purposely makes Natsuki change her mind. I think that's what the black and bold text is. Monica making Yuri and Natsuki purposely unlikable, so we're further manipulated into loving her unconditionally. Monica's probably weakest point is when she tries to talk with us in Act 2, but then it cuts out of her consent, transitioning to the poems. This might have been Monica's spark to completely say fuck it and break the fabric of reality, trapping us in the space room as people call it. I might have missed some stuff, but by the end, even after deleting her file, Monica's presence is still there. She's in the system and that's a blessing, and by the end, she realises what she's done and manipulative. When you delete her, she feels angry, denial, and betrayal and grief, but then she realises she was the shitty person. Not for deleting us. Not us for deleting her. As much as Cameron doesn't want me to say this, Monica got what she deserved throughout the game. Just Monica deserved it. But soon we realised that Monica wasn't the only selfish, manipulative person. Sayori also was, which tells us that all the girls were some way self-aware. Natsuki was aware Monika was strange and downplaying the situation. Yuri was aware Monika was watching. Natsuki definitely had the best fate as well. Sayori and Yuri committed suicide. Natsuki was just unaware of everything besides Yuri's suicide when she came to school. Monika tries passing it off, which I forgot to mention, but yes, she loves victim blaming and gaslighting and downplaying situations. Anyway, Natsuki was only deleted. And maybe she was in pain while it happened, but at least she wasn't drove to suicide. In Act 4 we find out that Sayori was self-aware as club president, and now knows what Monika did. She tries to do what Monika did, but Monika, through somewhere in the DDLC code, erases her to help us. Then she sings a song, gives us the poem, and the game ends. Yeah, Monika really had that yandere hamartia, didn't she? I find it great that Monika was just so good at having a character development. She really changed throughout the game, getting worse and worse until she's deleted and then realises her mistake, her fatal flaw. Her hamartia, you could call it, was her love for us, which might be in reference to Yuri, as her love for us got her killed. And the same basically happened to Monika. And there you have it, crazy ass game, and now I have nothing funny to say besides Natsuki saying Yuri's boobs grew as she saw John. Anyway, so before we move on, I have to discuss DDLC Plus, which was released on the 30th of June 2021. In addition, I should also talk about some other stuff that I missed, such as some of the special poems and other details I missed. So the side stories are pretty nice and don't have any kind of the stuff you'd see in the base game. This is just good old Monika, Sayori, Yuri and Natsuki shit. Throughout. All stories involve the characters having certain conflicts with each other, and we get to learn certain things about the characters. Like, I don't know, I guess Monika had some issues with trying to get people to join, since she was alone until Sayori came along. Then they had some personal relationship built where they trust each other, and Monika realizes that she shouldn't try to be the center of attention, and instead focus on keeping Sayori and any other future members happy. Another problem with Monika is her perfectionism. Monika's mental block of everything needing to be perfect leads to an internal conflict, shown pretty evident in her poem, which shows 2 ink stains, and the words written below are, "This is what I get for seeking perfection, a stain." Sayori comes. She asks Monika if she can trust Monika, and she says yes. We get left on another paper with more stains that say, "Sometimes I want to die," which concerns Monika. Obviously she knows Sayori's mental state isn't very well due to her depression, and also Sayori hates when people worry about her, because she just wants people to not sympathise with her, and instead, just be happy. Whenever she's not smiling, everyone is concerned for her. Monika's hug energy and willingness to listen, like Yuri, helps Sayori calm down. The song that plays, I think, is called Hug Energy as well. Aptly named, I'd say. After a short discussion, the trust story ends in a familiar face opening the door. I also forgot to mention that one of Sayori's poems talks about flowers, and how when a flower is pulled, it feels nice, yet dies in an instant. This is somewhat juxtaposing, as she loves the joyous feeling of playing with the flower, yet when she does it, she's killing life. Despite being this cruel, she wants more of this pleasure, more joy. Maybe it's something to do with her mental state, changing constantly like a dysphoria. She's even aware that as she plucks the flower, they die, but she keeps doing it. The second half talks about caressing the last flower around her, as she sees a barren wasteland. She killed them all, just for the pleasure. Now she's stuck in eternal depression or something. Her becoming the flower might be like her trying to put on a happy persona to make her friends happy, as although she has depression, she doesn't want people to treat her differently for it. She just wants everyone to smile. Maybe I'm being stupid, but anyway, let's move on. In Understanding, we learn the familiar person opening the door is, of course, Yuri. Also, I didn't mention this, but Monika and Sayori were trying to make posters for the literature club, and Sayori saw Yuri reading in a random class. So Monika slipped a flyer for the club to her and pissed off. This is how Yuri ends up joining and finding out about the club. She uses literature as a form of personal expression and, I guess, personal identification. Her favourite genre is fantasy, which Monika isn't a fan of, yet she has to learn to tolerate people for their taste in genre, which ends up being a big conflict later. Sayori is much more accepting of each girl's unique taste, and her lovable nature ends up becoming an issue with another conflict later. Back to the topic at hand, Yuri took a while because she was nervous Monika would tell the club how inconsiderate about her, not even looking up at Monika when she handed the flyer, which caused Monika to feel bad and apologise for interrupting best girl Yuri's reading time. So she walked off. Yuri sighs and says she has a pessimistic view of the worst case scenario. Another reason she was nervous to join was because there might have been too many people. Sayori says something about being into crafting and that her bedrooms only become untidy because she buys things for gifts for her friends, but she procrastinates until last minute. That's a reference to me! My room isn't untidy because of projects I work on, but yeah, the procrastination thing is definitely me. Anyway, Yuri is into nature, and this prompts Sayori to start a nature club, which Monika playfully interjects saying, "You're stuck with me." Isn't that a funny line? That's a joke, by the way. I doubt Monika is a Sayori. That's a joke, by the way. I doubt Monika's a yandere to Sandere. That's a joke, by the way. I doubt Monika's a yandere to Sayori, but it could hint Sayori being trapped in the code of the game, meaning she physically can't start her own club or whatever. Sayori objects to this, but then she's appointed vice president, so she literally is stuck with Monika because she has responsibilities. The next day, Yuri and Sayori read a fantasy book. Sayori is having a difficult part understanding certain parts of the book, which creates a subversion in the expectation and a role reversal as Sayori is usually more social than Yuri, yet Yuri's interests make Sayori feel lost and confused. In time, she slowly does start understanding more. Get it, like the title? In addition, she understands the importance of the notes Yuri said are for the book, and refers to it a lot to learn more about the book's narrative. The less questions, the stupider she seems, which is why she asks a lot less. Sayori saying Yuri's passion makes her ambitious to understand the narratives and connotations behind the story she reads with Yuri. This prompts Yuri to leave as she is sorry she made her do this. Sayori is the first in class in the next day, aka Understanding Part 2, because these conflicts are split into two chapters, one starting the issue and the other resolving it, except one instance which will be later. Anyway, Monika and Yuri meet out in the classroom and they talk about something, and then eventually walk over to somewhere, and there's a joke about without Sayori, Monika has a social anxiety and can't strike a functioning conversation, which leads to a Monika awkward moment. Monika says something about her being intimidated by people who have different interests in her, and that's a bit stupid to assume she wants the same interests as her. She wants diversity! Okay, so Yuri's problem with Sayori is that Yuri either gets ignored, made fun of, or taken pity on. Sayori is the third one. Yuri is kinda like me, about to yap about anything I like for hours. I mean, the runtime of this video says a lot, so yeah. Yet when it comes to ordinary conversations or social interaction, I'm not good at that shit. I'm the one in my friend group that usually likes to keep whatever political thought I have to myself when everyone else is so open about what they believe in, always bickering and yapping about who's right about the most arbitrary, pointless subject, and I'm the one who keeps being told to be quiet. I just don't like being told I'm wrong or whatever by any of them. I only chime in when I think I know something, but otherwise I always ask what they're even talking about. But side tangent out of the way, Yuri hates being treated differently because Yuri feels as though she's being pitied on because she's too nice. Yuri's problem is that she doesn't like that Sayori's trying to cater to her needs. Monika starts understanding Yuri's situation. Sayori wants to give people kindness, yet Yuri has trouble accepting the kindness, so she pushes her away. Neither person's to blame, yet without understanding they can't resolve the issue. Yuri is tired of pushing away people and creating a cycle where she thinks people are going to push her away, so she does it first. Yuri realizes that she needs to resolve it, so she confronts Sayori. Sayori's in a classroom reading the book Yuri left, leaving color-coded notes and whatnot. This turns Yuri to despair. Guilt and loathing herself causes her to break into a pool of tears. She shouted that she didn't want Sayori's pity. She took that back immediately, realizing it's unhealthy to keep pushing her away. Sayori wraps her arms behind Yuri, comforting her with words and obviously the physically intimate scene. Yuri only wanted to join because she thought she'd make friends with people who have the same interests as her. She now realizes that she can't be treated like a normal person when she doesn't act like one. It's the personality that matters, really. Sayori thanks her for helping her understand Yuri better. Sayori wants to help Yuri after she helped her in understanding the book. Sayori's irrational fears of what she believed to be Yuri thinking Sayori didn't like fantasy because it's hard to follow is probably similar to Yuri's irrational fear of people pushing her away. Sayori finding the book hard to read doesn't make it so she doesn't like it. It just takes her time to understand what it's about. I guess understanding has a double entendre in the side story, because it's used to understand Yuri, understand the book, and understand her interests. You can't discover new things unless you try them. Unless you Google it. Unless you Google what it is, like, I don't know, is Rambly the raccoon porn actually real? And yes, it's real. It's everywhere. If Sayori doesn't like it, she at least learnt about Yuri. Sayori tells Yuri that she wanted long hair like her, but was bad at taking care of it, so she cut it all off. They get up and Yuri tells her she's not allowed to touch Yuri without her consent, and then Monika appears and Yuri asks if she can hug her. I wonder if that's a joke, kinda funny. Sayori makes a reference to a character in what I assume to be the fantasy book, and Monika doesn't understand, so Yuri laughs. And guess what? That concludes understanding. Next is respect, and our interest is the objectively worst character. She's not a bad character, especially when you consider what's happened to her. And oh boy, we'll discuss that later. But yeah, Natsuki's my least favourite. Still an A tier character in a game full of A or S tiers. I used to hate her before this video, but now I just feel bad for her. Anyway, so they introduce themselves and Natsuki says she doesn't judge people before she meets them, which Yuri says she does, and Monika says she doesn't, but Yuri says she does. Also, for some reason, one of Natsuki's interests, which I believe we learn only in the side stories, is that she just likes hanging out downtown. That's such a weird fucking interest to mention. Imagine saying, oh, I love trains, the colour red, and hanging out with stripper clubs in London. It's such a weird thing to mention up. Also, she likes strawberry ice cream. In addition to that, she says, she guesses that Monika likes vanilla, Sayori likes cookie dough, and Monika is basic. Just kidding, I like Monika. Anyway, she takes a lot of online quizzes and guesses that Yuri likes green tea, which will be important later, trust me. Nah, I'm kidding, it's just for a funny callback. Anyway, Natsuki says she likes manga, which makes Monika nervous. And to make matters worse, Sayori says after all the deep reading she's done for Yuri, she wouldn't mind something simple, which makes Natsuki more mad, because she says it's not simple. So Natsuki wants to keep her manga in the literature club. She says she'll stay as long as she gets to keep her manga there, and I'm guessing she can't keep it at home because, well... Monika's problem with Natsuki is that she has no real interest in literature and is only doing the activities as some kind of obligation. Natsuki comes back with a ton of manga and has a dick moment where Sayori saves up for money, and in my opinion, Natsuki manipulates Sayori into taking a bite of the cookie, not letting her enter her kingdom, as she puts it, until she pays the tax, which to me seems more fantasy related like Yuri, except less serious and intellectual. Monika thinks everyone should vote on one book to read to expand everyone's interest, adventuring out of their comfort zone of sticking to what they know. Get it? Waterfalls reference. Anyway, Monika says this, and it prompts Natsuki to feel targeted. In addition, Monika asks Natsuki if she would like to do whatever the club was doing, as she said she wouldn't care, as long as she can leave her manga there. Natsuki gets mad because Monika is ignoring everyone's preferences. Monika thinks Natsuki doesn't respect the club, and that she shouldn't accept Natsuki's opinion on anything, since she doesn't care. Eventually, Natsuki just tells Monika she's unwanted and leaves. Monika slumps down on her desk in defeat and calls herself a jerk, before doubling down and calling Natsuki a jerk for looking for the smallest club in order to not participate. Monika can't feel like respecting her if she can't respect the club and its goals and wishes. As much as she hates the feeling of psychologically or physically hurting anyone, she feels like it's not wrong that she wants to enforce the club's vision. Monika sums it up as, "My frustrations want to blame her, but my guilt wants to blame me." Yuri says that Natsuki is irrational, not Monika, because she thinks she can waltz into the club and make demands of the club. The fact that Monika is allowing such ridiculous sort of media such as manga should make Natsuki feel in debt to Monika. Monika says she's right, yet it feels harsh to say that. If it wasn't manga, why would Monika act like this? She hates associating with literature, with manga, because yes, by definition it is a form of literature, but to Monika it feels like it isn't. Also, Monika pulls out a random manga and it just so happens to feature 4 girls in skirts with cute exaggerated poses. Possibly a reference to a game, I'm not quite sure, but you know. Part 2 opens up with Natsuki complaining to Sayori that Monika can't accept her interests and is instead condescending and judgmental. Natsuki confesses to Sayori that she only joined the club because she wanted to enjoy her own stuff without people making fun of her. That's what the literature club advertises itself as, and Monika is making Natsuki feel like she got lied to. You know, false advertisement. At least an Indian didn't scam her or anything, right? Anyway, Natsuki admits she likes writing, which she only didn't say that because it would make Monika push her away from manga and more towards the more mature thing, aka writing. And plus, she doesn't want to give Monika a reason to be happy after how rude she's been to her. Next day it's lunch and Monika tries finding Natsuki so she can make amends. When she does find her, she's chatting with her friends who are basically manipulating her while calling her immature. Natsuki looks in Monika's direction, which prompts her to turn away. Monika sees this, feeling horrible for not defending her, yet knows that she's not better than them due to how she treated Natsuki. Back in the club, Monika rants to Yuri again about how bad she feels that she's let everyone express themselves, unless it's in a way that Monika hates, such as manga. Monika confesses that she treated Yuri in a similar way about a fantasy interest, but Sayori managed to salvage that and take over the conversation before any conflict between the two started. Now Monika wants to get Natsuki's friends back or something by making sure the club is for Natsuki and not them. I don't know. Sayori busts into the club wanting an intervention, and Monika says she's already had a talk with Yuri about it, and apparently she feels satisfied that she did her job. If I was Sayori, I'd feel pretty useless. Monika then gets Sayori to bring Natsuki to the club tomorrow for a meeting, but before that, however, Sayori finds a manga that Monika dismisses as Natsuki, leaves it by accident, and Yuri says Monika's been something because she gets interrupted by Monika saying it was probably someone else using the classroom. Monika leaves the room and figures she shouldn't have left that lying around because if Sayori uses her last brain cells, she'll tell Natsuki. The last thing Monika says is that she wonders if she can borrow a keyboard from the music room. The next day, Monika and Yuri arrive, followed by Natsuki and Sayori. Sayori and Natsuki take a seat next to each other, and Monika feels nostalgic as she looks at the other members. Monika seeks trust, understanding, and respect as values for the club's vision. They really do love saying that in the side stories, don't they? Monika starts her intervention by writing manga on the chalkboard and saying, "We'll learn from an expert about it." Natsuki calls Monika out about forcing this, and she feels that Monika hasn't actually learned anything yet. Monika objects by saying she's sorry for disrespecting her. Natsuki says the stuff she's into is quite frankly dumb, and to that note, yeah, it is. Now can we move on to the next side story? Please? This video's already long enough. Anyway, Monika says she likes it and it's not dumb. Also, Natsuki finally admits that she likes writing. If you recall, and you probably forgot because no one actually listens to these documentary style videos anymore, but she wouldn't tell Monika that because she'd push her to the more mature thing. I don't know why I used that accent for it. A week later, every club member has at least had a day to share their favourite kinds of literature. Kind of like what Monika said way earlier in this story. As Natsuki is about to leave, Monika approaches her and asks her to follow her into the music room. Monika yaps to Natsuki about stuff like Sayori telling her that she's making the club more about herself than anyone else. And it took until Natsuki to join her for her to realise that. Natsuki says some stuff about her feelings, like the problem as people criticise her for being a certain way, and she just wishes she was appreciated for who she really is. Monika replies by wishing to be as strong as her, as she acts perfect all the time, yet when something goes wrong, she crumbles. She also confesses that she read some of Natsuki's manga, and she flipped through a random page and started reading a bunch. Guys, Monika's gone too far. This is the moment that Monika becomes just Monika. Apparently the book she was reading was Parfait Girls or something, which has the main characters in a literature club. Coincidence? I think not. We can assume this is the same book Monika read with the 4 girls in cute skirts. Skirts? We can assume this is the same book Monika read with the 4 cute girls in skirts. Don't you love it in Universe Ways of Breaking the Fourth Wall? Also, one of the characters plays the piano. Monika probably thinking, she just like me for real. Monika sits down on the piano and tells Natsuki that she feels she should only show the best parts of herself, the ones that she believes people like. And if you know me, I believe authenticity is better. But anyway, back to the topic. She realises how self-destructive this mentality is. Monika tells Natsuki she wrote a song for the club, and I might as well play it out. It's called My Song, Your Note because everyone brings something unique to the club or something. I guess maybe the connotation is that Monika finally realises that she's selfish for making the club about herself. Exclusively her doesn't shape the club into what it should be, but everyone else does, including her. Natsuki apologises for being immature and taking her frustrations out on Monika, that even as long as the manga stays in the room. Monika agrees, and before we end, Natsuki says she'll bring a treat tomorrow, which we don't know what it is, but it's heavily implied that it's her iconic cupcakes. And with that comes a conclusion to a 12-page long side story. God damn it, but at least we have 3 side stories unless you count the epilogue one. Next is Balance, and it opens up with Sayori being a clingy prick trying to hug Natsuki. In addition, she wants to read some manga, and I want to tear her eyeballs off if she speaks another time and makes this video another 10 minutes long. Also, Natsuki gets mad about literally nothing once again, and gives Natsuki about love, being another word for luck. Over the next few days, Sayori says hi to Natsuki in an extremely enthusiastic way, which makes Natsuki upset because of how overly nice she is. She confides with Monika about this, who tries to help her, which works, I think. Part 2 of Balance opens up at lunch and Sayori spots Natsuki walking with her friends, who walk away from Natsuki. Later, she sees Monika and Natsuki in the club and doesn't want to enter because she thinks Natsuki hates her. She and Yuri talk about it, and Yuri proceeds to say how Natsuki has her own life with her friends that's separate from the literature club friends. This causes Sayori to think that she's hurting her, but Yuri's unsure what to think. Sayori wasn't careful because Natsuki was already super social and so she didn't try to bother to find the right balance. Yuri says something about having a pessimistic view, but it's likely Natsuki harbours no ill feelings to Sayori. This makes Sayori much more positive and willing to reflect and grow as a person. Yuri compliments her by calling it mature. With that, the two of them enter the club and Natsuki is holding a piece of paper and tapping a pen against her desk, while staring at the sheet. Natsuki feels that Sayori is ignoring her because she's angry. Natsuki starts to write Sayori a message, and the end of the club meeting passes, and there's a deadly tension between the two as they are alone together as they stayed out late. Sayori walks out and Natsuki pursues her, but obviously not in a bad way. She gives her a poem titled The Best Place in the World. It's about her and all the treasures and secrets are kept in this metaphorical bedroom space. It's a fragile space with all of her memories, books and collections, but also deeper secrets like her fears, failures and feelings. This subspace in her mind is presented as a very delicate but still her favourite place. When someone tries to interrupt that peace and enter her space without her permission by knocking, she's afraid because she's not ready to share it. She's trapped in her favourite place. A blessing and a curse. Eventually she will allow people to see her special place, but not now. Sayori reveals that she feels really guilty and wanted to give space to Natsuki before she misunderstood. Sayori realizes she should let Natsuki approach her and not the other way around. A balance, if you will. And with that, balance is done. Reflection opens up with Monica asking Yuri if she's bothering her, which she says no to. Monica says the two of them haven't had much chance to talk, and she blames herself because she should be engaging with the club members. Yuri says the responsibility is equally on her because she's formed a habit of drawing minimal attention to herself, and she also doesn't socialise during lunch. Instead opting to read alone, but she likes it that way. The two of them keep bantering about stuff like romance novels, and Yuri doesn't like romance novels and said Natsuki should read it with Monica, as she has no shame. Then Natsuki appears and the three of them banter about whatever. Yuri and Natsuki are pricks to each other as well, but mostly Natsuki. After a bit, Monica and Yuri are left alone, and Yuri expresses upset to Monica as she feels like Natsuki is condescending. Yes, says Yuri. Time skips a day, and Monica is organising a club meeting about, I believe, mindfulness towards others. Monica asks Sayori about what her favourite fruit is, and I know this is law-changing, but she says cherries. And Monica says that she always thought that cherries are nasty, and Monica senses a strong reaction to the opposition. The point was that she felt her opinion was attacked. My favourite quote from this side story is, nasty is a nasty word. Yeah, no shit, Sayori. Next we take this example and use it for manga. Yuri hates manga, and Natsuki loves manga. Yuri says, I like my books sophisticated, bruh, and Natsuki sees it as a misunderstanding, and says there's plenty of deep manga. Yuri also confesses to reading manga once when she was younger, but she says she's now mature. Monica interrupts by telling them to be more subjective, and Natsuki says it's immature to judge someone for being different and having different interests, and says that fantasy is boring. Then the two of them argue more, and Yuri fucks off. Natsuki feels that Yuri looks down upon her, and Sayori says it isn't like that, and she just needs time to reflect, as well as everyone else. And that about does it for part 1. Part 2 opens up, and it's a new day. Sayori enters alone, and Natsuki suddenly appears. Monica apparently is waiting outside to help Yuri come in. Natsuki feels guilty, and also wants to forget about yesterday's events, while Sayori wants the two to just be friends, with manga and fantasy being able to both coexist. In addition, saying manga and fantasy are similar because they're both fictional is like saying eggs and atoms are similar because they both have types of shells. You know, like electron shells. Batsuki seems angry that Sayori gets on with people so well, and that Natsuki tends to get in fights with everyone, which, in case it wasn't obvious, isn't being friends. Natsuki always says it's their problem for being a jerk, but doesn't realise that she's just like Alan James or Julius Knickerbar, who are, in the nicest way possible, utter pricks. No one actually has the Julia Gooseberry problem though, it's just her allegedly. I can use that weasel word and say something like, Sayori comforts her by saying, at least you're not in advance. Anyway, so Sayori comforts her by saying that everyone has different ways of communicating feelings, meaning that it's easier to misunderstand each other. It's something Yuri struggles with, and it takes a lot of vulnerability, self-awareness, and even reflection. Natsuki's are bad at the vulnerability part because she has to be the strongest. Because people are mean to her, such as her friends and even her dad. Sayori asks if she thinks she's better than Yuri, and Natsuki replies no, because she'd sound full of herself. Then after Natsuki says her feelings tell her she's better than Yuri, and that she feels bad for thinking that, Sayori says, "You are not your feelings," and to repeat that to herself. Sayori tells her that her feelings are like a roommate that you have to meet every day, and that you'll feel awful once you run into them. The best way to not feel awful about them is to get to know about the metaphorical roommate. Natsuki asks how she knows so much about this stuff, and then Sayori drops a bombshell on her by admitting her roommate is depression, effectively confessing to have it. Natsuki seems confused because she's such a happy person, and Sayori replies by saying she's not her feelings. All of the club members are good people, but Yuri will eventually have to find that out about Natsuki. Despite Sayori's words, Natsuki feels pain, sadness, and potentially vulnerability. She hasn't been inflicted with a wound, but an old one is being rediscovered. We now cut to Yuri and Monika at the stairs that will be used in the next side story, and Yuri thought Monika was mad at her, and vice versa. Yuri says she has a lot of negative thought patterns, like thinking everyone, especially Natsuki, hates her. Monika says that she didn't think Natsuki hates her and that she's just naturally defensive. She acts mean to hope to protect herself. Yuri draws attention away from her because people talk behind her back, and when Natsuki said it's more respectable for people to speak their mind, Natsuki hated Yuri for speaking her mind. Yuri believes that Natsuki brings the worst out of her and that she feels really ashamed for it. She thinks Natsuki treats her like an inferior and makes her think bad things about her. Everyone else likes her, so Yuri must be the problem, allegedly. New source, Yuri's ass. She says her feelings are wrong and Monika says they're not wrong. And Yuri says they're not right either. Monika agrees and says they're both right and wrong. They're a state of being that you can't control, but you can't let them control you. Yuri says Monika is mature and makes things seem easier, while Monika says she had to develop the skills needed. I mean, she did seem hopeless in trust. Yuri wants to be a good person, and Monika says she had to have been a good person to get this far. Yuri says it's not enough, and that she should have communicated her feelings to Natsuki. The feelings she has when Natsuki dismisses Yuri's interests, which affect her on a personal level. Natsuki's dismissal reminds Yuri of how she was misunderstood all the time. She can't stand being the disturbed piece because the club should be happy for everyone. Monika says Sayori's starting to rub off her and she wants to hug her. Yuri lets her and says she's going to write Natsuki a letter because she's bad at talking, especially under pressure. Monika thinks it's a great idea, and Yuri says friendships don't just appear out of nowhere because her and Sayori are like opposites, but they're friends because Sayori took so much effort in understanding her. She always thought that if she wanted to make more friends, she had to be someone she's not, a special formula to follow to make someone like her. What she observed through the literature club is that friendship happens when you think about the other person, when you offer time and effort in order to understand, respect, and trust someone, that they want to be a good person too. She observed this by having people like Monika and Sayori talk to her about their thoughts about people. Although Monika and Sayori are better at handling conflict and are more social, that doesn't make them better people. Everyone has strengths and weaknesses with the addition of the capacity to improve. The first step to do this is reflection and self-awareness. Yuri never gave herself credit for that, but Monika recognizes it as an admirable trait. Yuri's walking the hallways at lunchtime while Monika talks to a group of friends. As expected, this was a bad idea. Monika glances at the door, making a panic, and duck out of sight. Before Yuri can leave, Monika opens the literature club door and greets her. Yuri needs help writing a letter. Monika briefly glances over at her friends and tells her the two of them can go to an empty classroom. She tells her friends and the two head into the classroom. While on the way, the two talk with Yuri, asking how Monika's doing. She replies by saying she's okay, if not a bit tired. Yuri asks why she didn't get much sleep during the week, and she replies by saying she easily gets distracted and starts neglecting things. Now in a classroom, Yuri stops relaxing as Monika sits her down. She doesn't want to do it, but she knows she should do it for the betterment of the group. Get it? Betterment, like not for broadcast. Haha, I'm so hilarious. Anyway, Yuri grabs a handful of lined paper from her notebook and picks up a pen. Monika comments on her being left-handed, which is convenient because it means that Monika doesn't have to worry about bumping into her arm. Monica thinks she should start by mentioning things she should have wanted to say to her. For example, what she told Monica yesterday. Yuri writes the word reflection and says she should have been able to befriend Monica and Sayori because they'd taken time to understand and respect her interests. Monica says the same applies to her and Natsuki because the two of them were hostile originally, but she just wanted to be respected more than anything else. Once Monica stopped making it all about her and a superiority complex, Natsuki did the same. Yuri wants to do the same things for her as what she likes to receive, not being brushed off for an interest. That's like saying I should be ignored because I want to be a journalist, although that's a bit more reasonable, I guess. At least I'm not a lawyer. Yuri likes her feelings taken seriously, and also the fact that Sayori and Monica trust that she wants to be a good person. Yuri writes down, and Monica says Yuri should try put Natsuki first when she feels vulnerable. Although it's hard when she feels hurt, it doesn't help telling the other that they're doing something wrong. Let her know that you're ready to respect and listen to her. In addition, admit things you could do better. Finally ask what you should like in return. And Yuri says Monica's so good at organising the structure, but Monica decided to not have an ego fit for a king, and decided humility is best by saying it was Yuri who took the effort to reflect with an open mind. She's just helping her write it down. Monica gives Yuri's hand a quick squeeze, and when she goes to retract it, she's surprised when Yuri hooks it in place. For a while they stay there, in silence, save for the sound of the pen against the paper. Yuri repeats Monica's feelings aren't right or wrong. They're just an uncontrollable state of being we deal with and come to terms with. Statement from yesterday. It made Yuri think about how a person's behaviour isn't always how they decide to be. It's also made up by past experiences and insecurities. It's what Yuri sees people as. Well, people. Not Julia Salisbury or side characters trying to hurt her in any way. Admittedly, she thought that about Natsuki. In reality, everyone's always trying their best and wants to be happy. Monica tries to peer over at Yuri's paper, and surprisingly she hides it from her line of sight. Her thoughts are much more organised now after talking to Monica, and now she thinks she probably shouldn't share the letter with others. Monica understands, and Yuri admits she'll never be good with people, including in reality that she is one. Well, not in real life, but just shut up and be immersed. However, listening to Monica did really help her make sense of things. I know I could definitely listen to anything she says, even though she probably helped me get into unhealthy habits when I was depressed between lockdown and mid-2024.
Showing this will have consequences. For someone not showing it, it's up to you.
This is going to be a side tangent, but I don't know where to put this. But there is one thing I want to do real quick before we get back on track. I've hid this for a while, but it's time to just do it. I may regret this, but... Not the most attractive face ever, but I've come to terms with it. I myself have had to learn a lot of things. This is a bit of a side tangent, but I think this game is very personal to me. This video is quite personal to me. I do it for the passion, not money. DDLC has a lot more hidden connotations than I initially thought, with things like the poems to analyse. I obviously suffer with severe depression, thinking about suicide every day. I've never in depth talked about my depression, but I think now that I'm finally happy and reflecting, why not? You can skip ahead if you want, but if you're okay with that, then let's start. Pre-April 2020 was good because I was happy. COVID wasn't a problem, it wasn't fully mainstream, and then lockdown hit. My primary school finished before I could even finish it officially, because I'm pretty sure it usually finishes in June-ish, July maybe, but we had to finish in April, so I didn't get to say bye to everyone. I didn't get a proper goodbye because most of the people were either gone or I didn't recognise them. There were a few like Rachel, who I believe is now in Blackpool, post year 10, year 9. And then there's James, who's... But more importantly, there's Jack, who looks like Jeb from Mojang. Lockdown left me lonely, introverted and traumatised. Lockdown gave me severe depression, anxiety, and addictions to porn. Specifically furry porn and AI chatbots like Character.ai. Character.ai makes me procrastinate a lot. It's the main source of my procrastination. I wanted to die, but I was scared that I'd burden my family if I killed myself, and more reasons, but I always wondered, what if life would get better? This is a lesson that I would soon learn in November, but let's discuss that later. September rolled around and we had to wear face masks and stay in one corridor rather than mingle with other years. I met Cameron, who became my best friend due to reasons such as SMG4 and Portal. These are two really weird things that you can become friends with someone with. I guess Portal would kind of make sense, but SMG4? It's just so random. I look tired, oh my god. He was, and still is, very political. I introduced him to my friend group and we had fun with our Dimitroslavia server on Minecraft. He wanted to be an accountant, and still does obviously. And he's a very technical and methodical person, I'd say. We even made a sausage roll religion. That was a joke, obviously. I want to be cool and mature like him. He's a very admirable person, and I feel bad for making him hate me sometimes, making him mad. Then there's Mason, who we met in year 7 and 8, I believe, and turns out he wasn't a good person. I'd say he's a little more progressive than us, I guess. We disagreed a lot, but I think we were friends due to us both being gay and shit. He's also trans as well, and I don't condemn people for doing that, but because it's hypocrisy for a start. Since I'm gay, I've got loads of trans friends and brothers, And second, it goes against my principles. I don't hate you unless you're an asshole. Mason did a lot of things, ranging from morally questionable to downright illegal. Anyway, I could be happy now because we hate him. I was stuck, suffering last year because I felt like my voice wasn't being heard. I told them I had a feeling that he'd do something wrong. And yeah, he did. And a weird thing is that during November mocks, my depression suddenly disappeared. It's weird because, mocks? I think that'd be an awful time for you, right? I also had an open evening on Wednesday the 14th of November, and it went great. I'm very optimistic to go to that college. Travelling an hour isn't great, but I'm still excited, if not a little cautionary. Anyway, I'm going to end this rant by saying, life will get better. Okay? I've got femboy glue. If you want femboy glue, fucking Pritt Stick femboy version. Got a lot of props, actually. So where were we? Right. Yuri asks Monica to not call her actions damage, and says she just came to the club to find fantasy geeks, but instead she got real friends who value her. With that, they stand up as the clock gets closer to the end of lunch. She's not quite done, and could get done before the end of the day, but doesn't want to risk coming to the club the same day as Natsuki reads it. Monica offers to give it to her, and Yuri agrees as long as Monica doesn't read it, which she respectfully agrees not to do so. With that, the two leave, and understanding is over. Yeah, the Natsuki-Yuri beef is bigger than any other. Except maybe the Kendrick Lamar beef. Starting self-love, it's the day after Yuri's letter was delivered to its sundry recipient. It's lunchtime at the moment, so it's basically been a little over a day since her and Monica wrote the letter together. Despite the fact it's only lunch, Yuri is nervously awaiting the after effects of giving her the letter and then finds a secluded spot for lunch. An under-maintenance staircase which no student would ever have a reason to go to. It would have been really nice and relaxing if it wasn't immediately juxtaposed by the sight of Natsuki, the person who Yuri did not want to meet at all. Natsuki apparently came to get a drink from the vending machine because the other one didn't have the drink she liked. What a coincidence. The two avoid eye contact awkwardly as Natsuki attempts to shuffle to the vending machine. She gets some kind of iced tea and comments on how creepy it is here, and understands that if it's Yuri's thing. Yuri allows her to stay as Natsuki drinks her iced tea, and Yuri reads, or at least pretends to. The two sit in awkward silence for a while, although tension seems to fade a bit. This might mean something, but it's not clear what. The two stand up as lunch starts, and Natsuki asks if Yuri is going to the club, which she nods to. Natsuki apologises for being awkward and bad at talking about this stuff, but knows she has to eventually. Yuri promises that there's no rush, and Natsuki thanks her, and we fade to black. The next day starts and Natsuki steps to the vending machine while glancing at Yuri. Natsuki's holding a book and came here to read in silence. The vibe is a lot more positive, while the two are more relaxed. Despite Yuri's letter lingering over Natsuki's mind, she continues to detour around the issue. Natsuki lets her stay as long as she doesn't have to deal with the bullshit from her friends, especially since they think the literature club has made them stop reading manga. She has no online friends that read manga, and Sayori doesn't count because she just likes it and isn't into it. Natsuki says at least Yuri chose something that at least looks like a book, so she wouldn't get judged for reading it. The amount of attention she gets already is bad enough. Good thing Natsuki has thick skin. Also, Natsuki suggests looking for online friends to share similar interests. Yuri says she's already had a lot of online friends since middle school because she was lonely and desperate. And although she was also embarrassed of those times, Natsuki says they were all stupid kids. For example, Natsuki wrote fanfics. Good thing she used a pseudonym. She slaps herself to come in terms with her future self. To Natsuki's surprise, Yuri also does the exact same, although she doesn't know why she did it. Maybe she thought it was funny. Yuri then realises that Natsuki came to read and lets her do that, and the screen fades to black as the two read in silence. Next day's lunch has the two of them meet up again. Natsuki notices that Yuri has an iced tea on the staircase, which she assumes she brought from the vending machine, which she would be right in assuming. She bought it for Natsuki but would have drank it herself if she didn't come. Natsuki thanks her after a small bit of sundry bollocks. The two of them sit together as Natsuki gets the drink and feels like it's doing something nice for Yuri. Yuri tells her not to feel obliged, but Natsuki responds by saying she wants to do nice things too. For once. Natsuki thinks about how she's not the best terms with her friends, and she likes having fun with them, but they won't take anything seriously, and it's gotten worse since she joined the club. She doesn't know why though, but she blames herself for being overly sensitive. She doesn't judge everyone to change. She doesn't want anyone to change, just because of her attitude, but recognises that Monica and Sayori wouldn't like her saying this. Natsuki says that Sayori and Monica have never been in a position so it's easier for them to say that. She apologises and says this has nothing to do with Yuri, so she doesn't know why she's even talking about it. Yuri says she likes listening to people's problem, and Natsuki says it's weird. Then she apologises after seeing Yuri's glum look. Yuri asks if it's weird, and Natsuki says she probably misunderstood and that she can keep continuing with her story. Natsuki talks about the fact her friends are fun to hang out and enjoy her baking. It's also fun to complain about school, and there's a lot of good memories and inside jokes. Yuri asks if those things are things that Natsuki wants in friends, and remarks on Sayori having a lot of those traits. Natsuki replies by saying that kind of thing isn't necessary, but she also says that Sayori isn't like her friends, and Yuri says, unlike Natsuki's friend, she cares about her. Natsuki takes offense to that and attempts to leave, but Yuri apologizes, and Natsuki accepts as long as she understands that she can't judge people like that. Yuri apologizes and says she doesn't like people who want to hurt her, and Natsuki hardens as she said her friends don't want to hurt her, they just tease her and have fun. Yuri doesn't like it, and Natsuki says that's why she's friends with them, and Yuri isn't. Natsuki then says not to worry about her, and Yuri wishes he was good at dealing with these types of conflicts, like Monika does. Natsuki says Monika and Sayori don't understand that it's something Natsuki has to deal with by herself, and that she doesn't always want help. She's frustrated that if you gave them bad luck that they patronize her. The only one that understands that Natsuki wants to mind her own business is Yuri. Yuri thanks her and says she's also a nice person. Natsuki says she always thinks of herself as someone who can only say what's on her mind, but feels it only works when she's annoyed, upset, or wants to say something mean. Natsuki gives a rhetorical question. Why is she like that? She asks Yuri why she likes reading, and she gives a myriad of reasons such as immersion and the fact that unlike real-life characters, she actually wants to be around the characters. They feel more real than real life. She hates being near anyone, especially group settings, and I can relate to that as I hate social interaction in groups of people I don't know too well or otherwise hate. Natsuki asks if she's ever wanted to be friends with the characters in the books that she reads, and she replies with a resounding yes to a point where the thought makes her heart ache. Natsuki can relate to that, so maybe a kindred relationship can be formed between the two, one full of understanding, and that causes mutual silence, which spells the end of Self-Love, Part 1. Part 2 opens up on another day with lunch more than halfway finished. Natsuki holds a container with cupcakes inside of them. She shares some of them with her friends. She asks Yuri to try one, and the aesthetic is very pretty, with it being brown with dark green frosting shaped into a floral pattern, and is topped with a kind of glittery powder. Yuri asks if they're for the club, and Natsuki says she guesses so. Yuri remarks that she thought that green is Monika's favourite colour. Yuri takes a bite, and the callback you're waiting for like an hour comes in. The cupcake is green tea flavoured. Yuri likes green tea. Natsuki says she always knew that she liked them from her past experiences, likely from the online quiz. Yuri also recalls a time when she treated herself to Natsuki's cupcakes, although I don't believe that was in the side stories, only in the base game, although it could be off-screen. There is definitely no mention of Yuri trying green tea cupcakes in my script, specifically the side stories, so I either missed something or it's off-script, or off-screen. Regardless, Yuri asks Natsuki what made her interested in baking, and Natsuki doesn't know. She guesses it just appealed to her, but there's a manga with a lot of baking, and it made her bake nearly every day. But it's something she always knew she liked. She treats it like art, whereas art gets more beautiful, abstract, and captivating as you get better at it, baking just gets more delicious. Yuri, on the other hand, struggles to understand the craft of making art made to be eaten. Natsuki says maybe she's too practical for it, and she replies by saying she prefers to be on the receiving end, and to be fair, who doesn't? Natsuki says that's her other favourite part about it. It's something she can do that a lot of people can like and appreciate. Unconditional happiness. It makes her feel valued. Yuri asks if Natsuki has made up with her friends, and says there was no conflicts to make up with. No fighting or anything. Yuri believes she misunderstood, and Natsuki says it's only a fight if she loses her cool, and that's unnecessary drama. It's not worth it. Especially since she can stay here if she wants to be away from them. Yuri seems glad that the issue is resolved, and Natsuki agrees and says now she don't need to bother Yuri during her alone time. She thinks that cupcakes are nothing compared to the things Yuri does for her. Natsuki slides the rest of the cupcake box for Yuri to eat, and she replies by saying she should save them for her friends. Natsuki seems disheartened because she made them for Yuri. Yuri says she succeeded in making her happy, but should focus on making her other friends happy, and that she shouldn't take that away. She shouldn't take that opportunity away from her by hogging all the cupcakes. Natsuki says they were made to make Yuri happy, and Yuri comes back by saying she makes her happy. She's more worth than simple cupcakes. That's why her friends want to spend time with Natsuki, to be her friend. To Yuri's surprise, Natsuki starts to cry. She lacks self-love and hates herself. Yuri's kind words make her feel wrong, like she doesn't deserve it. She can't think of a single trait about herself anyone would like, and she hated herself for bothering Yuri during lunch. She thought it was a good chance to be a good person, like the nice things Yuri mentioned in the letter. If she tried being nice in the club, Monika and Sayori would be annoying and make a huge deal about it. Yuri emphasizes with Natsuki by saying she thinks a lot of negative things about herself, like how she scrutinizes everything she says and feels like she said the wrong things. She doesn't feel like a good person. She spent so much time thinking about how much she hates herself and feeling that others hate her too. She wrote the letter to express her feelings of being in a similar experience, and she was pained to see those traits in someone else. Yuri pulls out some tissues for Natsuki and says Monika told her it takes a good person to reflect on those things. A desire to improve yourself makes you a good person. There are some traits people would like about Natsuki, like her more extroverted and fun personality, her passion and ability to take the initiative, her passion around others, and much more. This makes Natsuki embarrassed, and she says, trying to hide a smile which fades again, that every time she comes to the staircase, she thinks it's her last time, but she keeps coming back. She finds it all amusing and confusing, because she and her friends go way back, so ditching them would make her feel so scared that they'll get mad at her. Yuri gives a hypothetical scenario that her friends are happy for her and not angry. Happy that the club makes her happy, and Natsuki says by saying it's not a fair hypothetical. She always told herself that she doesn't rely on the approval of others to be happy, and although she believes in that principle, she spends time with people who put her down when she doesn't have their approval. That's likely what confuses her. She feels threatened out of the things that make her happy, so no matter what, she has to be unhappy. Yuri sympathizes her by saying it's difficult to feel comfortable with herself, being mad by feeling like she's wrong for who she is. It goes against Natsuki's principles, against the type of person she wants to be. She's fed up with it and a lot of other things. She knows what's best for herself, but convinces herself out of it because it's easier to be uncomfortably unhappy than to do something scary. She plans to end her friendships with them, but she's only thought of that recently because it's been so long with them, and throwing it away seems really hard. Like throwing away a massive portion of life. It makes her sick and scared. Scared of being alone, no one to talk to or hang out with, unable to replace what is lost. She doesn't want them to hate and hurt her, not physically. Yuri says that if anyone threatens to hurt her, she'll Sonic unleash them. Nah, she says she'll unleash hell upon these putrid, soulless lawyers. Maybe she's going through her own Naruto arc. Anyway, Natsuki laughs at this, finding it very amusing. She apologizes after Yuri tells her not to laugh at her, and she says she likes it. Natsuki needed that good hearty chuckle and lets Yuri have all the cupcakes, and the screen fades to black. I did not need that voice for that. Once again, another lunch break, and the two meet up, except Natsuki was actually first. Somehow she got her stubby 4-foot legs there before Yuri. Yuri sits down and Natsuki comments on how it sucks when a series ends. Like such a stable of your life, but then when it ends, you've got nothing to move on to. Maybe Natsuki should watch The Archers on BBC Radio 4. That shit's never gonna die, probably. Yuri's about to experience that too, and so am I, when I finally finish this fucking video. On the contrary, Yuri finds a series ending to be satisfactory. It's not good when a series overstays its welcome. Right, Simpsons? Okay, this could apply a lot, but still. Natsuki ponders if Yuri goes out during the weekends, like for shopping or going downtown, which Natsuki loves, and more. Yuri says it's not a complete shut-in, and Natsuki apologizes, but Yuri says she doesn't actually go out that much compared to other club members. She usually just meets with a board game group, and Natsuki inquires about it, and Yuri notices her shaking. Natsuki admitted that she texted her friend saying she's ending the relationship. She thinks it was the wrong thing to do, and Yuri doesn't know what to do or think, or how to help her. When Natsuki asks for help, Yuri thinks she's having a panic attack. She luckily has an experience with panic attacks, and soon it works out. Yuri helps her breathe in, out, and comforts her. Minutes pass and Natsuki recovers, hoping she'll never experience that ever again. But Yuri says it's entirely possible, and that the two would need a good way to cope and deal with it, and avoid it. Natsuki says she couldn't have done that alone, and Yuri replies by saying from now on she's not alone. When she says that, she tenses up. It's rare for her to share her own feelings and thoughts, but with Natsuki it felt right and natural. Like Yuri, Natsuki's timid and uncertain of herself. She hides that fact, but now Yuri knows that she can deliver the reassurance Yuri herself would have wanted. The two are now slumped down on the stairs while Natsuki tells her that Yuri will probably regret saying that since Natsuki is now going to have a lot of free time. Yuri just accepts that responsibility, and Natsuki knows a good ice cream place. Yuri chuckles and says she'll now know Yuri's favourite ice cream flavour. This is actually the callback from fucking ages ago. She guessed everyone's favourite flavour but didn't know Yuri's favourite flavour. Yuri remembers vividly saying green tea, but Yuri says her favourite flavour is chocolate and raspberry. Natsuki seems surprised and says it's fancy, confusing Yuri. She doesn't know why she said that, but it feels like she should have known it was something like that. Yuri then says she can try chocolate and strawberry, and coincidentally strawberry is Natsuki's favourite flavour, and she thinks it will help to have something to look forward to. Natsuki mentions that they never mentioned the letter at any point, but supposes they're way past that point that she doesn't even know what to talk about, except for the fact that it may have helped her understand her needs better. The way she likes being treated, and friends she wants to have. Natsuki confesses that she had Sayori help her find Yuri because she's shy. Yuri can tell she's been making brave and tough decisions that will be beneficial in the long term, and thinks anyone would be proud of her for it, like herself. Natsuki says she could get used to this, and Yuri says that's okay as long as Natsuki doesn't tease her too much. Yuri agrees, but says only a spoonful. Only a bit. Yuri agrees and says that she understands everything feels uncertain to Natsuki, but believes good things are to come in the foreseeable future. Natsuki feels glad to be reassured, and as the two have a much more positive and friendly silence together, they are prepared for tomorrow's meeting, which will be the finale to this bloody mess of a fucking video. Everyone has grown together, and are now ready to reflect on everything thus far, as am I. Yuri ponders that perhaps now would be a good time to visit the bookstore. Together. Finally, Equals starts, and although the justice system isn't equal and territory-run citizens aren't equal, the Literature Club sure is ready to be, which is one small step for man and one giant leap for hot mummies. Monica greets everyone and says the meeting is about the general direction of the club, to help them figure out what to do for the upcoming festival, which seemed to also be a plotline in base game, although it was generally ignored because yeah, it's shit. Natsuki and Sayori apparently organised a plan already, which is Monica and Yuri would collect intel on which clubs and classes do food booths, and then they would take a map and plan a most efficient route to get to the booths before the lives get too long. Monica cuts in and says this has absolutely nothing to do with the club. Then Sayori continues and says they get all the food they can so they can come back and eat together. Monica remarks how she got tricked by the exact same joke, and Natsuki calls her a hater and challenges her to come up with a better idea. Yuri and Monica seem more interested in helping people become more interested in the club, and she can fit that in with the food escapade. These two are so evil. Sayori seems eager to agree, but Natsuki is quick to dismiss Monica's idea because he can't express everything the club has to offer because the members in it all get different things from the club. Monica then suggests another idea which Sayori is on board with, where all the members can talk about what they've gotten from the club so far. It could help build the reputation they wanted. Yuri, on the other hand, is embarrassed by the prospect. Sayori says she'd have a lot to talk about, and Yuri agrees that that's the problem, and that Natsuki feels like the exact same. Natsuki's unsure but didn't plan on arguing against it because in the literature club, they're supposed to talk about those things together, and the only way to get comfortable with it is to suck up and do it. Yuri gives up and apologizes for resisting, and Sayori tells us that it's really rude to tell people to suck things up, suggesting that their feelings do not matter. Natsuki apologizes and asks who wants to start. Sayori goes first because apparently she was the first to join. Yeah, I don't know about that. Sayori. Haha, I get joke, it's so funny. Anyway, she starts by saying she initially joined to have fun sharing poems with people. It seemed like a safe way of expressing herself without burdening anyone with her problems. After all, a poem's a poem, right? She was surprised when it was just Monica, who was sleeping. It seemed excited to help starting a club, especially since it helped her. Because of this, she wanted to help people with the power of words on a screen. But in truth, the power of trust and determination, oops, wrong game. It was Sayori who was inspired by the strong, mature mummy Monica from the hit game Doki Doki Literature Club. It helped her feel less alone, having someone who knew about Sayori's deepest thoughts. At the moment, she knew that deep inside that the literature club would be good for rehabilitation. Maybe not rehab, but it would be really good for helping others at the very least. For Yuri, it was good for her to take the lead and help her settle in and open up more. Natsuki, however, was quite the opposite. Sayori had to learn to appreciate her boundaries. The yin and the yang of the literature club really helped her understand the different needs of the people in the club. Sayori is glad to know that because her friends are the most important things to her, that she'll continue to help any new members that come in the foreseeable future. Yuri says she doesn't know if she would have kept coming to the club if it wasn't for Sayori. Yuri starts to share her thoughts, like how she initially came here to find fantasy fanatics. She supposes that's how she expected to make friends with people. She remembers feeling uncomfortable because her and Sayori had very different energies. She believes Sayori was wasting her time by trying to be friends with her. She admits to being naive by believing a key component to friendship is similar interests. The two were only able to become friends because Sayori was thinking about the needs of others, something Yuri never knew or thought to do. Sayori helped her stay in the club, and Yuri tried to learn to understand other people's interests. She hated the fact that she was someone who wasn't behaving like someone as likable as Sayori or Monica. That fact made her hate herself. What she came to realize was that she should think about others and not herself, because she was able to befriend everyone else. Another thing she learned was that she's better at communicating in written form rather than direct confrontation. These facts make her happy. Sayori says she's cute, and Yuri denies, but Natsuki says that's my line, and after a bit she has her turn. She tells Yuri that she was scared to go off, and then She tells Yuri that she was scared to go and still went first, calling it out as a show-off to rub salt in the sarcastic wound. She also tells the two of them that they missed out a law-changing important detail, Natsuki's cupcakes. She forgives neither of them and tells them only Monica will be getting any. She then gets nervous and comments on not being able to eat so many cupcakes. When Monica says that, Natsuki snarkily agrees and says that only Yuri can eat so many. Natsuki then gets ready to talk. She mentions how it improved her mental health because she had realised she had a toxic relationship with her friends outside the club. Having to cut them out was hard, but had to be done. Natsuki was only ever ridiculed for having feelings, so cutting ties with them was the right thing. She thanks everyone for respecting her feelings despite her being, well, a prick. Sayori says that they all love her, but Natsuki says she hates that she was like that. Despite everything they did for her, she believes she could do nothing in return. Monica disagrees and says she's done more than she thinks. The club wouldn't be the same without her. Monica brings up the fact that she was judgmental to Natsuki and her interests, and how she learned to respect her interests. How she inspired Monica to play piano. Sayori says she's fun and helped her out too, and that having a problem doesn't make her needy or inconvenient. Yuri agrees and says that Natsuki's empathetic struggles made her a better person. Monica speaks about her problems with being a perfectionist. She never took time to believe in the best of other people. She was proven wrong in her belief that her way was the only one for the betterment of the club, or thinking she could solve everyone's problems. An important thing to realise as a leader is that you're not perfect, and the best you can do is guide others rather than do everything for them. The members are all good people, all equals. Sayori writes down trust on the chalkboard. Monica is surprised as she tells Monica that she showed Sayori that she could trust Monica with anything about her, even her bad sides. Yuri writes understanding and says she owes it to Monica for taking time to understand Yuri's interests, despite her struggling to express herself. Monica then writes respect and says she always thought she was a respectable person, but the club helped her realise there was more to it than she thought. Then Sayori writes balance and explains that some people want different things out of a relationship and may need time before they're ready to get close. It's important to keep you and the others balanced. Next, Yuri writes reflection and says she always believed she was a reflective person, but most of it has been hating herself for all the things she thought she did wrong. Once she started to reflect on other people, not just herself, a lot changed for her. Finally, Natsuki writes self-love while sighing. She doesn't know how far she's gotten with it, but believes she's on the right track. Monica asks if this was supposed to be a club about literature, and Sayori agrees and says it's also about friendship. Natsuki and Yuri nod as Monica suggests the four take a photo together since they haven't actually done that yet. Sayori is immediately on board, Yuri wants to brush her hair first, and Natsuki complains by saying she's got the best hair out of the four of them. Yuri. They get ready and take a photo. Monica is glad how far they've come with only 4 members, and Sayori agrees and gets motivated for a poem. Monica feels the same way, wanting to get some writing done, and Sayori again agrees. Yuri is on board and Natsuki is more hesitant but fine with it. The screen fades to black as the 4 disperse to their desks to get ready. Monica is unsure where to start, but says to herself to just move your hand and write the way into your heart. With a mind full of thoughts, memories and inspirations, she navigates through mental barriers and starts to write. With that, the game finally ends, and the credits roll for DDLC Plus, but it's not quite the end of the story. So according to my script, the special poems that we got were the Stare at the Dot and Dream About the Unknown Man Telling the Joke. I thought I did the one about the papa, but I must have missed it. The poem is initially positive, with the writer liking how their papa does nice things for them and asks about anything. But then the tone is much more isolated and concerning as the writer expresses how they like that their father gives them privacy. Which would be fine if it wasn't for the fact that the writer expresses that they like it when their father doesn't care about their dreams, friends, or hobbies. They like it when their father comes back without waking them up, and the final part is worse, with them expressing how they like when their father keeps food in the hole, uses his inside voice, leaves their stuff alone, accidentally drops coins, and on the ending, I like when Papa is too tired to notice me, too tired for anything. And finally, I like it when Papa is too tired for anything. So this poem is very ominous and uncomfortable because it's about a real problem that the writer faces. The writer likely being Natsuki, who I believe has said before that she's been abused and neglected by her father. The poem is about how much her father doesn't care about anything she does and doesn't care what happens to him. I think her father might be suffering from some kind of issue like depression or substance abuse. But don't worry, we'll talk about substance abuse when we get to another game in the trilogy of videos I'm going to make of games. I'm not actually sure if the father is suffering or if it's something else, but regardless, Natsuki hates home because she gets abused and neglected. The frightening thing about psychological horror is that it scares you by the realism presented in the internal conflicts people suffer from and how they cope with problems like depression, anxiety, and abuse. I'm not quite qualified to talk about abuse, and I've never been neglected or abused or anything like that, but it really does make you awful. Natsuki saying she likes it when her father leaves food in the house suggests that she might not be guaranteed to get food every day, which really makes you feel like you're taking your life for granted. I don't want to guilt trip anyone at all, and I'm not good at talking about these problems, but yeah, I take a lot of things in life for granted. I remember a big thing that kept me in my depression was the feeling that people suffer far worse than me. I wasn't caring enough about myself, I cared more about people like Natsuki, who had a rough, neglectful childhood. Anyway, I'm not sure what else to say, so let's just move on, and life will get better. A Joke is a dark poem that's very on the nose, but it tells us about a man who walked into a club and there was a girl who liked him very much. They spent a lot of time together and liked each other even more. Then she realised she was in love, but she hated herself for being in love. This contradiction caused the script to derail, but she killed herself just in time before reality collapsed. This is most likely Monica talking about Sayori, because obviously both Sayori and Yuri had depression and killed themselves via Monica's power, but Sayori hated herself for loving John. And I don't know what else to say, so let's just move on. The next one I want to talk about is this concerning one where the writer explains that they cut their skin open for the first time, and it felt exhilarating, but I doubt they'll do it another time until they kill themselves. They left a memento of the occasion below. Yeah, that's a concerning blood wound, likely from stabbing with a knife. I believe the writer is Sayori because she says she thinks she understands how redacted feels, but knows that she should be the responsible one. I feel like Yuri would self-harm before Sayori, but also the comment about being responsible could link to Yuri because she thinks she's mature, responsible and whatnot. Or at least she did in the side stories. Also, it could link to Yuri because she's known to stab herself because of the raccoon poem and, well, you know, that scene. Sayori seems much more like the hanging type, but regardless, it's either Sayori or Yuri. Another special poem says, "Can you hear me, Gregory?" I'm kidding, not everything needs to be a not-for-broadcast reference. And another that says, "Nothing is real," spaced out between loads of redacted text. I'm not sure what it really is, but it translates to something apparently, and I think it's different between DDLC and DDLC Plus. I believe it's this Elysia figure or something related to like some kind of prequel for DDLC. I don't know. It has something to do with some kind of third eye organization. I genuinely have no clue. Let's just move on. One more quick fire one, which is I can't convince myself to go to therapy when I'm the happiest I've ever been. I'd rather keep this up until I blow my cover and someone takes me to the emergency room. But the room is cut off at the first door, so it could be trying to save Rocket Man, but who knows. It's likely Yuri who's writing this because she feels happy to be hurting herself and finds it fun, but wants to keep hurting herself until someone finds out and helps her. Finally, we have A Dream, which is about someone exploring an abandoned warehouse at night. They aren't lost, but want to find an exit and go home. They come across an empty room which seems to be in complete darkness. They fall through a hole which sends them falling for about 5 seconds, and they land in warm water. When they resurface, they are again in complete darkness. They could feel a damp metal wall of some kind of container. My lungs were already getting tired. I'm not sure what this could mean, but maybe it's a dream by Yuri. Possibly she is drowning. Maybe the container is that one mysterious box from FNAF. Regardless, I don't understand very well what it's trying to tell me. Possibly it's foreshadowing, maybe it's something else. But regardless, it's foreboding. I guess that concludes Doki Doki Long Rant Club. This took fucking forever, but I'm happy to be done because, fuck Sayori. Nah, she's still hot. This game is very good and it might have helped me with my depression, I think. It taught me something, I'm not sure what, but yeah. Anyway, I'm done. Goodbye. Thanks for watching.